Hey, I'm Kai, and today I'm excited to be unboxing my custom order from Crab Guitar Effects. In case you haven't seen the recent buzz about these amps online, Crab are a small builder based in Ukraine who are currently able to produce tube amps at very reasonable prices. I'll get this one unboxed and then we'll dive into an overview and some quick tones through this thing, but before I do, please drop me a subscribe if you haven't done so already. It goes a long way towards helping the channel out. First thing I've noticed is that it comes completely in polystyrene, so it should be pretty well protected. Let's show you what that looks like quickly. The first thing I have here is just the foot switch, I think. This is just to change the channels on the amplifier. This is what the foot switch looks like. It's a fairly simple 2-button sort of thing. Very DIY, but it does feel pretty high quality. This is the amp, and it's surprisingly lightweight, which I'm quite enjoying. I'll get this one unwrapped. As expected, I've covered my entire room in polystyrene balls already, but it's fine. The amp seems to have been shipped nicely, it's pretty well protected, and it doesn't seem to have a scratch on it, so, you know, can't complain too much really. So this is the Crab Brown Eye, which is Crab's take on the Friedman BE100 Deluxe circuit. This cost me $500 plus about $150 in shipping and import taxes, so about $650 or £500 all in. I'm not super familiar with Friedman's circuit, so it's going to be pretty interesting to try and dive into this one, but as far as I'm aware, we have 3 different channels available. We have clean, OD, and HOD, which I think is going to be the BE and HBE channels from the Friedman. The clean channel on this has its own dedicated 3-band EQ as well as a bright switch, while the 2 gain channels share their EQ. They do have separate gain and master volume controls though, so that's already a benefit over the 5153 that you see behind me. We've got the standard power amp controls of presence and depth on this one, but on the back we also have a negative feedback control. Now this is something that I've never tried on a real amp before, though I have tried it out in the fractal models. It should be a super powerful control, taking the amp from a thick saturated thing right the way back to a dry, tighter sort of sound. You can probably also see that there are a ton of different tone shifting switches beneath the knobs, and this is something I will go into a lot more in my full deep dive review later on, but I will give a quick overview of them now. The structure switch will control the level of gain, the voice will control your high-end response, fat is obviously going to be a low boost sort of thing, and finally sat is a sort of modded Marshall kind of thing, adding in more gain and more compression. The back of this amp is fairly simple really. We have the send and return jacks for the effects loop, we have a foot switch input, there's the negative feedback control, the different speaker outputs, as well as a low power switch, which is going to come in handy. I'm going to shut the cameras off now and set this amp up, run through it a little bit so that I can learn it, and then I'll show you some of the tones. Okay, I've got everything set up now and I've spent a little bit of time learning how the amp works. I'll start off by showing the clean channel, but in this video I'm only really going to do 1 or 2 tones per channel just to keep this nice and short. I'm running my PRS S2 into the Crab Brown Eye, then out into the Sur reactive load and out to my DAW, where I'm loading up the ML Soundlab mega oversized cab pack. For the clean tone I am going to engage the UA Effects Heavenly Plate just to liven things up a little bit. Now onto the first of 2 overdrive channels, this is OD1. I'm not going to run through every single switch on this, I'm going to dial in 1 low gain tone and 1 high gain tone for each of the 2 OD channels. With that, let's see how low gain OD1 can get. This is with the gain about 1 and then the master just turned up enough to match the clean channel. It is pretty low gain, however I do think I would have wanted it to go a little bit lower gain than this. It's a nice sort of plexi crunch sound as is though. Let's push this gain up though and see just how much gain we have on OD channel 1. One thing I have noticed is that this amp is a touch noisy, but it's nothing that a noise gate can't cure. Let's do that. Now this is where the amp really starts to breathe some fire, and this is really what I bought it for. That is a fantastic sound for an amp of this price point. I'll also show off some of the tones available on the HOD channel. Let's switch over to that and go for a low gain thing. I'm not going to go super low gain for this channel because I think this is really where we're going to start to get some of that crunchy British sort of sound going. Let's hear what this is like. As expected, it does crunch brilliantly as well. I am so happy with this thing. Of course, we now have to push this amp up into the most extreme of territories. This is the HOD channel with the gain up high. We'll once again do a quick noise check on this channel, then we'll engage the noise gate and just hear what it sounds like. You know, I couldn't go a whole crab demo without doing some crabcore. Let's also just hear it for a standard metal context sort of thing though. Man, this thing is great. So that's all for the tones of this demo, and I now want to get into a sort of conclusion wrap-up sort of thing. And the first thing I need to mention here is that this is not a sponsored video, as I paid for this amp myself. It's worth repeating that this amp costs about $500, which puts it in the same sort of price bracket as something like the Marshall DSL-20 for instance. I experimented a little bit with the tones in this video, but I didn't even touch the negative feedback control, and half the time I left the tone stack alone and just played about with the switches instead. There is so much on offer here that it takes so long to get into and really learn how the amp works, but that's coming in my deep dive review soon. The switches are fairly complicated, but most of them are fairly self-explanatory, and I only really found the voice one to be one that I would have taken away. It's pretty subtle shifts. In terms of build quality and that sort of thing, it feels like a fairly solid mid-level amp. It doesn't feel super premium by any means, but it feels like way more than what you're paying for. I think if you want that sort of Friedman modded Marshall hot rod thing, this is a great one to go for. My only complaint about it is that it does get pretty noisy, far noisier than my EVH 5153 does for instance. It's also a very different type of gain to the 5153, so it may just be that it lends itself more to noise issues. That is everything that I've got time for this unboxing demo, but be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the full review of this amplifier, which should be coming pretty soon. I expect the deep dive is going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping to run it through a bunch of different pedals, different guitars, all that sorts of stuff to really dive into what makes this amp tick. In case you aren't aware, I have affiliate links in the description box down below for Thomann, so if you're ever shopping there, please do use my link as it gives me a little bit of kickback without costing you a penny. I'm currently trying to keep it updated with all of the gear that I actively use, so it should be a pretty good hub for all of my recording gear, my mics, my amps, my guitars, at least where it's available on Thomann. That's all for this video though, so thank you ever so much for sticking around to the end, and until next time, I've been Kai.